There's a lot of work that went on behind that verdict that Ahmaud Arbery's killers have been convicted. And without the protests, without the kids in the street, these guys would never even have been arrested. We did it in the 60s, but it continues to be a critical part. And of course, as ACLU, this is part of our First Amendment rights that people have to be able to express themselves through protests.
Ahmaud Arbery was murdered on February 23rd of 2020. Trayvon Martin was murdered on February 26th of 2013. Emmett Till was murdered on August 28th of 1955. That is 3 generations of people who have been on this stage who have witnessed murders of black men and women throughout this nation's history. So I think one of the first calls of action is that the younger generation now no longer wants to continue the fight for justice. They want to end the war, and they want to win it to the point where black people are now free to jog down the street without being harassed or killed. So the protests that happened, and I remember being in Brunswick because of what happened with Ahmaud Arbery, getting calls from the ACLU of Minnesota saying that there are protests happening, can you come out here and help us? And then seeing what was happening down at the CNN Center. So went down there with a legal observer vest to make sure that those protesters were not harassed by the police, because that's what the young people who are in the streets, and it wasn't just young people, it was different people from all shades and walks of life, during COVID, risking their lives and saying this is not right. What happened to George Floyd was not right. What happened to Breonna Taylor was not right. So this new energy that's happening, as Ambassador Young was saying before, of saying, let's make sure that this new generation has the resources and the guidance to make things happen. And they look towards legislators like the ones that were in this room to make sure that what they're doing is right, but also taking it to another level as well. So the leadership that you had, Andrea, of saying, whatever the protesters need, let's train, and we did. We trained over 1,000 people in 3 days to become legal observers in the city of Atlanta to make sure that protests, the birthplace of the civil rights movement, was actually safe here as well.
One of the really important things about the protests that took place around the country is that this was a situation where the young people took those protests into the voting booth. And so we saw around the country, the election of 2020, we saw, of course, in Georgia, two senators, one a black preacher from Ebenezer Church, sent to the U.S. Senate.